Welcome, dear listener. I hope that you are going to really enjoy these episodes of being radically honest. And in the spirit of being radically honest, we need to fess up. So here's the thing, we started this out calling it radical honesty, but it turns out there's somebody already out there using the term and even trademarked the term radical honesty. So from here on in, we are going to refer to this as radically honest instead. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to a new wonderful bonus series that I'm doing that is associated with my orgasmic life, but it's this whole other program that me and Dana are going on this adventure about. It's called Radical Honesty Real Talk series. And I'm so excited to be going on this adventure with Dana. Our last time that we spent time together, we talked about what is radical honesty. So go check out that episode. And today we're going to get into how does radical honesty show up for us, both internally and externally. So Dana, you want to introduce yourself a little bit for all the audience that doesn't know you yet?
Awesome. So my name is Dana Farrant. Brief synopsis. Let's see. I grew up in a cult, became a dominatrix, grew a 7-figure business, sold it, and then became a coach to help people keep their head out of their ass to grow their own world domination plans.
I love that.
How's that?
That's the first time I've heard you introduce yourself that way. It's awesome. I'm like, wow. Ballsy. It's totally ballsy. I love it.
Talk about radical honesty. There you go. There is the highlight reel. All the things that make me crazy. That's what you need to know to understand why I'm so fucking crazy. So in a good way.
In a good way.
In a good way.
In a good way. Okay, so then that's going to give me some pause to our next episode. I'll do an intro that's radical like that. Okay, I need some time. I got a whole lot of crazy. I got to pick which crazy I want to share.
That was just totally off the top of my head. Like really,
awesome.
It's just it. Like I love it too. I may use that everywhere. Boom, boom, boom. Done. So, okay.
Let's talk about how is radical honesty showing up for you? First of all, actually, let's just give a little recap on what we were doing, like why we're doing this.
Okay. Yeah, because it's kind of crazy. But at the same time, what I'm seeing is that most people lie to themselves first and foremost, right? It's like, no, things are good. And, and then that shows up in like addictions or staying too long in relationships that don't work for you, or continuing on a business path that doesn't work for you because you've committed all this time to it. And we don't actually dig in and get honest with what do we really feel? What do we really want? And so it's about this symptom of not being radically honest, not being truly dig down deep, hardcore honest, leads to physical pain, emotional pain, financial pain. That would be the synopsis.
That's a very good synopsis.
Thank you.
Very good. You're on fire this
I'm on fire today. I know. I'm like,
you go, girl. I love
it. So basically you and I have been, in a friendship relationship for 3 years now. I think 3 years. Yeah, it's got to be 3 years.
Longer.
Maybe
I think
longer.
It's longer. I think it's longer than 3 years.
Shh, I don't want to get old fast. So
okay. We've been in a relationship. We've been in a friendship, a radical, honest. Let's call it what it is. We've been in a radical, honest friendship, intense friendship. For it, definitely the last 3 years. We've known each other longer than that, but I would say in the last 3 years is where we have like really dropped into being radically honest with each other. And I have grown as a human being exponentially because of us constantly leaning into this beautiful place of radical honesty with each other, with ourselves, and practicing all the ways that it doesn't go right and all the ways that it's messy and all the times that it's like, wow, that worked out really well. And so it's been like this beautiful, our relationship, this is what I love about our relationship. It's been a beautiful, growing, safe containment space for us to really explore, expand, understand it, and see how it shows up. And from this, we've birthed this great idea. And one of our, long radical honesty hangout with each other. And we started to think about, well, what if we actually started to teach people this? What would happen if we started to create space where we had an immersive experience where you came for a weekend and you experienced, not only learned about radical honesty, but got to practice it in a safe environment. And that is what has been birthed. And so we have birthed it, and now we are going to do, as a commitment to showcasing what this looks like and what you might be getting yourself into every 2 weeks.
Don't say it that way. The fun and debauchery that you're going to get yourself into. I think that will appeal much
better. And do you have the dates in front of you of when it's in April?
Yeah, because I just changed it on the website. So April 22nd to 24th in 2022.
Beautiful.
In Toronto.
And we'll have the link in the show notes and how you can get involved. Okay, so where are we going to, who wants to go first? You want to go first? You're on fire. You want to go first?
I am on fire. Thanks. I love it when those days click in where the brain just is like out of the way and it's full on channeled information just dropping in because it's so brilliant. So so the story that I wanted to bring out was a recent episode. So I have recently started dating again, both that I'm in an ethically non-monogamous relationship, which is now ending. So, that gets kind of complicated, but regardless, I am dating again. And in the world of, online dating and digital apps and all these things, it's quite the adventure. And you know what? I just want to segue in one piece. I have seen a remarkable number of men, because that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for men. Not that this is a call out. Please do not reach out for me for a date. Go through the proper app.
And that's very important that you said that, because anything that we share here is not an invitation for us to engage with us on a personal level. You can engage with us in a professional capacity for support, but this is not an opportunity as an invitation for any personal interactions with us.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So I've been really surprised at how many men have something in their profile about that they're looking for somebody who is honest. Like that comes up again and again and again in the profiles. And I don't know whether these men have been cheated on. And so then the whole honesty thing is there, or they feel, from the dating world where people, post a picture from 20 years ago and then show up and you're like, that's, 20 years and 50 pounds ago. You're not the same person. I'm not sure where that's coming from, but it's really struck me, I guess, because we're talking so much about honesty. It struck me as how many times that's coming up. But even with that, like I've noticed that there's only like surface level honesty that they're looking for. So for example, I was dating this fellow. Well, we were talking back and forth. We had some great conversations. We were having video chats like every day, having some really great conversations. It was a really good click. And his schedule, my schedule weren't lining up. So finally, we're going to get together for a date. And he lives about an hour drive from me. So, and I don't like to drive at night. I should preface that. So I'm not, I think I've reached that point where it's like, I don't enjoy it. It doesn't work for me. So he's got a big house. And so we arranged that it's like, he's got a guest bedroom. I was going to stay over, and that, it was like, we spend a chunk of time together. So setting that a lot, because basically we had more of a night in, we went out for dinner and then came back and just kind of hung out at his place, which was very lovely. Now here's the problem for me, is that in that time, he had probably about 7 drinks and 4 joints. And as someone who is a super lightweight, on a good day, I can have 1 glass of wine and feel quite tipsy. That's an extreme difference for me. And you and I talked about this afterwards, and how like that actually triggers on my, childhood and being around people who are drinking and doing drugs and it not being safe, because it was not a safe environment. So I had to have a conversation with this person that, I really enjoyed him. I mean, the rest of the encounter was really enjoyable. We clicked. Everything was so good. He's got his shit together. He's got a business. He's doing well financially. I mean, that's a hook for me, right? It's like, oh, but I had to sit down and tell him on the Monday that, I really like you and your drinking is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me uncomfortable. And what was funny was that he was like, oh, okay. I'm just getting in. I gotta have a shower. I'm like, okay, no problem. So then he, about an hour goes by and he texts me. He's like, oh, I'm really tired. I'll, talk to you in the morning. Have a good sleep well. And,
Mm-hmm.
little heart emoji, whatever, right? And then nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like no discussion about it, no wanting to dive into it, nothing, just ghost, which, I think is like so annoying on so many levels. Like, just say, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to face this. I'm not willing to give up my drinking. Been nice knowing you. See you later. Like, say something. Like, it's so frustrating when people can't just be honest. And I get that it's uncomfortable because it was not a comfortable conversation for me to have with this person.
Well, and
say,
I think we need to preface too that you and I had a very long conversation about what it was and what was like for you to get clear. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, I didn't like your drinking. And then the next day you're like, hey, I need to talk to you about your drinking. It was like, you were feeling uncomfortable and not quite sure to what degree why that was making you uncomfortable. And so that's where that radical honesty internal piece comes in, right? Where you then went and did all this internal work and us having a conversation for you to get clear. Oh, that's right. Drinking that much alcohol triggers my unsafety, trauma, childhood stuff. And so then once you were clear on that, that's how you approach the conversation. Like, you actually went back to him from a really ownership place. Like, there was no blaming, there was no any of that kind of stuff. It was just a genuine like, hey, so this is what this feels like for me. Just to let you know, I had a great time and this is what I feel like, which opened up the possibility, opened up this beautiful possibility for him to choose to lean in or choose to not lean in. But let's be honest, we don't know how to do that. No. That's the piece. Like, we don't know how to say, hey, that's making me really uncomfortable. I don't really want to deal with this right now, so I'm gonna grab a shower. Or, you know what? I think you're crazy. There's nothing wrong with my drinking. Or anything of how he was what he was thinking or what he was feeling. He doesn't have a framework either of like, how is he supposed to say that to you?
Yeah, he doesn't have somebody like you to call and go, okay, so this just got dumped on my plate. Now what, like, how do I deal with it? What's going on? And walk it through. And no doubt, knowing a bit about him, no doubt there were some triggers in me saying that, in saying, you as you are not acceptable. I mean, that's basically how a lot of people would interpret it, is that you are not acceptable. And I'm just saying, no, it's like, it's that behavior just doesn't work for me. Everything else I really like. But I don't want to force somebody to give up, their alcohol, their pot, whatever it is that they're into. It's like, you need to decide whether you want that or not. But I get to say, does that work for me to be around that? And for me, it doesn't work because that person changes and that person becomes less cognizant of what my needs are and where the interaction is. It becomes very focused on them and their needs, and and it's that classic case of when somebody's drinking too much, they think they're really funny, and meanwhile the rest of the room is like, you are obnoxious ass.
Yeah. Yes.
Which I have a funny story to share. So this is very, it's doubly interesting in that one of the reasons I'm separating from my current husband, soon to be ex-husband, is his drinking and drug use. So there's also that layer in here. But when he drinks a little too much, he thinks he's being funny, and we're all like, man, you are irritating. And like I find
Yep.
I find him so annoying, and I get frustrated and I yell at him. And I laugh because the other day he came home and he was working in his shop with his buddy. They were working on the sled and they're working away, and his buddy lives with a recovering alcoholic, so there's no alcohol really drank in the house. So when he gets out, he tends to like go a little heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Starts to go crazy. So he was working there with my future ex-husband, and he's pounding the beers and then slamming the tools around. He's saying stuff that's like obnoxious and really annoying, and Pierre's getting like super annoyed with him. And he's like, he actually realized for the first time, Gaia, for the first time.
Now remember, we are on recording. We're recording this.
Okay.
Okay.
That's okay. I'm like, he knows.
Right.
He knows.
Okay.
But for the first time, he finally got what I have been saying to him.
Yeah.
For all these years. He actually admitted to me that he thought I was making that shit up.
Mm-hmm.
I was just being hypersensitive. I was just being an annoying bitch, whatever it was that he had in his head. But he finally got how somebody else being more drunk than you and them thinking that they're being funny is actually really annoying.
Yes.
If only he'd got that 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing the adventures of out in your dating world. I want to share one of many. I would like to share what's going on internally, like how radical honesty is showing up for me on an internal level. So a month ago, I had fantastic birthday sex, and but I got like, I had too much. I indulged too much, and I didn't take care of my body, and so I popped out ribs, and I hurt my neck, and I hurt my back, and so for the last month, like, and normally that would just pop itself back in. Like it would have been like a 2-day window of like, you overindulged, you had too many orgasms, you didn't pay attention to what you needed to do for your body.
Yeah,
you should have stretched better, right? But I have been struggling for a month almost in constant pain. Ribs popping out, back happening, lower back happening, neck happening, all these things. And it didn't, no matter what I've been doing to try to actually stabilize my back, it's not working. So I'm still in pain. So last week I called Dana and I'm like, so do you want to check in just for a second to see whether or not this is something more than just like, physical stuff? And Dana says, well, it's about stability. Like, how stable are you really feeling in your life these days? And so a little backstory. So I got married last year. I moved in with him. That's been a shit show of a clusterfuck of a gong show. I moved all of my work stuff out to the nudist resort. Now I've moved it all back to my old place in Waterloo. Half of my stuff is in Waterloo and half of my stuff is at the nudist resort. And so, needless to say, I haven't been very stable. I haven't been stable for months and months and months and months and months. So it's not surprising that my body also can't stabilize. So here's where the ugly truth comes out. So Dana starts talking about stability, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not ready to listen to this. I don't want to listen to this. I know where this is going. I don't want to listen to this. I want to be vengeful. I'm angry and I want to be in a vengeful space. And the pace in order for me to be vengeful is to leave half of my stuff there so that my husband has to look at it.
And like, not use those rooms.
And not use those rooms as punishment for the parts that he played in the life gong show clusterfuck that is me at the moment. And in my lifestyle. So I say to Dana, yeah, I'm not ready to look at that. I need to be vengeful. I'm going to sit with that vengeance. Stay with it for a couple days. So it was about 2 days. So in that 2 days, my ribs are getting even worse. They're getting worse now that I actually cognitively realize that I'm actually only doing this out of spite, and that is not actually serving me on any level whatsoever. Even though I've chosen to be vengeful, I now am aware of it. So because I'm aware of it, my body's like, are you fucking kidding me? All it takes is for you to make a different choice, do some different mindset, and your body could be better. But I'm like, no, I'm staying in the vengeance. I'm holding on to it. So finally, Sunday morning comes around. And I'm like, okay. And I check in. I go in, do some internal work with my subconscious. And I check in and I'm like, are we ready to let go of the vengeance? And all my subconscious is like, yeah, I think it's a good idea. We've had our vengeance. It's actually not really working. He's not even aware that we're doing it with vengeance. So it's like the worst vengeance plan ever. So my subconscious is like, you need to work on your vengeance plans, by the way, because this is not a really good one. And we would like our office back, please. That has a proper chair and a proper desktop and a proper, so you can do your computer work and you can do all the things. So I take the moment and I laugh throughout the process. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to let go of vengeance and I'm going to do what needs to be done to create stability. What do I need to do to create stability? And then I started that process of having that. Now that I had the honesty of what was really going on and why I was doing what I was doing, and my body was doing as a direct reaction to that, now I could start to course correct in how do I create stability. And so that's what this week, my whole week has been about, is like, how do I create, where am I feeling unstable, and how do I course correct so that I can get stability back into my life, so that my body can also drop back into its core stability, which is my rib cage and my abdominals and my lower back and all these things. So that's the cray-cray, that the internal and the benefit of radical honesty with oneself, and having other people that is also willing to call you out.
Yes. Because it is rather challenging. Like, we both have looked at where was our internal process, but it is challenging to see that on our own.
Yes.
And, having somebody else, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a coach or a trained therapist, or like, if you work with somebody else who's already learned how to be radically honest, it is easier for us to spot it in other people than in ourselves. And so yes. I think it's important to have that person that is equally committed to being honest,
yes.
so that they can actually call you out. Because there's a risk in calling somebody out and saying, listen, I don't think that vengeance is actually working for you, Gaia, right? Like, there's a there's a risk to that, because so many people don't want to hear it. And so what I find,
go ahead.
I find that most people hold back even when you initially ask, because I have asked for years. I've asked people to be honest. I'm like, all right, tell me what blind spots you see that I am not seeing. Like, what do I need to work on? They're like, no, you're awesome. I'm like, come on. Like, everybody has something. There's something that I'm doing that's annoying. You just fucking tell me. Like, but people are afraid to do that.
Yes.
So we need to learn the skills of hearing the honesty and being able to sit with it, and also being willing to risk saying the honesty. And how do you say that in a way that isn't about, oh, Gaia, I think you're like so pitiful for being spiteful. That's really like terrible. I don't know why I have to do the Valley Girl accent, but anyway.
So I think, and that's beautiful. And it's really important that we have consent. So here's the really important piece of this, is that you and I have made a commitment, a consensual commitment to each other, to call out each other when we see bullshit.
Yes.
And because we've consciously allowed that and given that each other permission to do so. So there's been many times where I've told you stuff that I'm like, ooh, if I had said this to anybody else, I would get disowned. And there's plenty of times where you've said shit to me that I'm pretty sure you get disowned if you said that to anybody else. But the key in that is that we're both committed to that honesty. We're both committed, and we had an agreement that we would do that for each other. And I think that's that piece around how do we move with radical honesty in the layers of radical honesty within our relationships with people. Yeah. Some people you can have really deep, like you can say, what the fuck? You just say, what the fuck? Bullshit. That's a bullshit lie. Liar. Liar, bad fire. Some people you can have that kind of level of conversation with. Others you might have to be like, well, I've noticed that don't seem to be really in line with what you said over here. Like there's different layers of that, and learning how to navigate that is part of what we're creating for people to learn how to practice that.
Yeah. And I had a thought, it hadn't occurred to me until we got talking about this whole, partnership. So that one key person that calls you on your shit. If you already have somebody that you're developing that relationship with, both of you come. Like whether it's your primary partner or a friend or whatever, that could really move that dynamic forward in a big way if you're both sharpening your skills of how to be radically honest, practicing it, diving into it, finding that container to be safe, all of those pieces. So anyway, just a thought for
so you're already in that enhancing it, right? So do you want to talk a little bit about that weekend? Because I'm closed. Do you feel like you need to say anything?
No, I'm good. We can talk briefly about the weekend. I mean, we've been kind of, talking a little bit along the way, but basically it is that whole piece of the experiential container. So this is extreme personal development, for those that have done a lot of work. This is not a beginner program. Please do not comment if you haven't done anything else. But for those that have done all the things, and you want to take it to a next level, this is about really diving in, because I find a lot of programs and things, they pull back from this. And granted, it's smart that you don't throw a whole bunch of people into this kind of level. So we're keeping the group small so that we can really manage everybody, make sure that if you have times where you're like, oh, I need to pull back, you've got space to kind of step out for a moment, come back in, really engage and practice the tools. So it is all about holding that container for people to drop in a way that is safe and respectful. And then you've got like course correction from you and I along the way. So I'm quite excited for this.
Yeah. And that safety piece is a really important part that Dana and I have done a lot of work to sit in, and both of our area of expertise is in trauma. So in the event that you might get triggered, we can hold space for you. And we have set up and worked in there that most likely could happen, that people get triggered, and that's okay. And that there's one of us that will be there to support you through that process. So you won't be left out alone. You will have the support that you need. It's a safe containment space to explore this. And we've really sat down and really worked in those safety components.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that I just want to touch on is that, we're calling people to do something dynamic, something challenging, much like if you were to, climb Kilimanjaro or, go run a marathon, those are really incredible experiences that require you to go dig deep. And we're calling that, but at the same time, there's an ease with it because it's kind of like you're climbing Kilimanjaro and we are carrying all of the packs. So we're your Sherpas for this guide, and we're going to make it easier. We're going to make sure that your toes are bandaged, and we're going to take care of you. But this is it's a safe space to explore going in a lot deeper. So yeah, I think there was something else I wanted to say, but I lost the thought halfway through. I got distracted with the Sherpas. I don't know where they came in from, but
Great. So thank you everybody for listening. And I'm excited to share with you how radical honesty shows up in my life on a regular basis and Dana's life on a regular basis. And
stay tuned for more adventures.
Stay tuned for more adventures of, cray-cray management.
And you can still do epic shit while you're cray-cray.
You can still do epic shit while you're cray-cray. So, for all the details, the landing page, how to find out the details of this retreat, it will be in the show notes. And until next time, thanks for listening and watching.